Okay, the Thursday, May 29th meeting of the Water Quality Management Committee will come to order. First item on the agenda is update on the ballot vote, which took place on the 20th of May in the town of Falmouth. The gentleman from the press is in attendance, and I saw him last week, and he asked whether a 597 vote margin was close or not. And so I looked up the last 5 years of ballot questions in this town, and the most recent couple have passed with much greater margins, and those were ours. The one for the design, and the one before that for the 2.77 million for the water for the combination of sewering and demonstration projects. Those both passed with 1,400 and 1,800 votes. The filtration design, interestingly enough, in 2011 passed with only 101 votes margin.
Wow.
And the question in 2010 of whether or not to repair the North Falmouth and the other East Falmouth school roofs, that won by 655. 2008, whether or not to spend $20 million more to finish the high school project, won by 510 votes. And that same year, the DPW had a proposed capital plan that won by 135 votes. So to answer the question of the gentleman from the press, 597 is a substantial margin in the history of ballot questions in the town of Falmouth. Question 1 in 5 precincts. It lost in 2 precincts by a total of 26 votes. If 26 votes had changed, 2 more precincts would have been in the win column. And 2 precincts where it lost were precincts where they had no estuaries. They were totally inland precincts. So as a matter of common sense, perhaps on their part, there was no immediate benefit for those people in those precincts, and they perhaps voted with that in mind. But without belaboring it, I think it was a good vote of confidence in what this committee has been doing for the last 3 years. And I think everyone did a good job of making the case. And now our obligation is obviously to carry it out. And, but I think the town understood what we have been doing and have been trying to do, and has clearly put themselves on record as being supportive. So, any other comments or questions about the ballot vote? Ron?
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Yes, you're right. In 4 precincts, 4 out of 9, it didn't pass, and 5 it did pass. But I think the most telling thing is that the precinct that's going to be most heavily impacted by the project in terms of the sewer voted down. And I think that is something we really need to take to heart on this. And I'm already starting to get feedback that people really didn't understand the vote, because there was this yes on question 1 committee that put out this card that said no increase in taxes or something, no new taxes. And the people assume then that, at least the feedback I've been getting, is that there would be no extra cost to them in the precinct, the people on the sewer. So they didn't understand, a lot of them, that they were voting, that this would be almost an $18,000 lien from what we know now on each of those properties. So I think that some attention needs to be given to clarifying what that is, because there could be quite a bit of social disruption in precinct 3 in the sewer service area, if in fact it was a widespread understanding there would be no additional costs. Based on the postcard I think we all got that said no increase in taxes, didn't say anything about costs or anything like this. So I think that we need to make some effort somehow to explain, to be sure that that understanding is among those households, especially the lower income ones. And I think we also need to be sure the seniors are clear. Virginia was clear that there's a 0% interest on the deferred betterment payments by seniors. But from what I understand, I'm not sure if that's the case, but I've only seen like an 8% or 5% from the town assessor. So, so I think that these are factors that are, from a social standpoint, could cause quite a bit of hardship in Precinct 3, where they did vote it down, and parts of Precinct 2, if it is the case that how widespread this misunderstanding is. One person got up at the T-ticket meeting, as you recall, who said that if this goes through, he'll have to leave his home. And he walked out of the meeting, but that was his statement there. So that was something I think, so when we look at this vote and understand you know, what you're saying about the margin of 600 votes is a clear mandate from your viewpoint, Eric, which I think is good out of 7,500 votes. I think that's something we need to take to heart, though, and to be have understanding, and especially with the people who will be directly impacted by this project, because it's liable to be quite a shock to many of them. And many of them, the elderly, they're not really linked into our great television audience, or the internet. Many of them don't even access, or some may not access the internet or know really what's going on. So, but this postcard that was sent around clearly said no tax increase, and yet it wasn't clear that there would be an increased cost to about 1,400 households in the project area. So that's just something I think we need to work on in that area.
Right. Well, I think you're absolutely right that the people in the area need as much information as they can get on this topic. There was one major public meeting held prior to the election, and my understanding is the selectmen and town administrator are contemplating another public meeting of that nature in that area coming up soon. I would correct you on one thing, though. The sewer service area actually falls into two separate precincts, right. And the portion in the Falmouth Heights is part of Precinct 2, where the question carried by a 58 to 42 margin. So I think that side of Little Pond was pretty enthusiastic about it. Precinct 3, the vote was 48 to 52, which is definitely a negative, but it's also very close, and frankly it's closer than Precinct 3 normally votes on any money issue. Precinct 3 is a conservative area on spending, and they traditionally vote against most ballot questions. So the fact that it was 48 to 52 suggests actually a fair amount of support in an area that traditionally doesn't support any spending. But we're not here to hash all that over too much. Any other comments?
I think what's clear is the next step is policy. That's well beyond this. It's up to the selectmen. We're going to slice and dice the numbers, and the selectmen with public input will come up with a fair and equitable betterment. I think it's unfair to say one side misled. I could go down and clearly show some misquotes on the other side as well. So I think it's, you can't say one postcard. People are confused. And I think the confusion was because of the dynamics on both sides, not being able to get together and say, okay, if we're going to inform the citizenry, let's inform them with true facts and not suppositions.
Well, that's never happened in any election ever.
You want to change politics now?
A great idea, but I think what we had was as much information as
And it's the best system in the world, right?
Well, that's right. All right, update on the Board of Selectmen Echo Toilet Exemption regulations. Virginia?
Well, I can tell you what little I know. The you remember we had we had several, but anyway, two important pieces of special legislation. And one was to help spread the betterment and make it more equitable for people within the sewer surface area. And the other was the eco toilet exemption special legislation that has been signed by the governor, whereby properties within the sewer service area, if they join the eco toilet demonstration project, could be exempt from the betterment. Basically, the betterment would be set aside, and they would take part in the program, which is a 2-year program, have their septic system monitored monthly, and they must convert all of their toilets to an eco toilet or of some type. The legislation charged the Board of Selectmen with enacting the regulations to implement it within 120 days. And so Julian Suso has begun to convene staff to do that. Town Council Duffy briefed the selectmen a week ago on what he thought were the key components to these regulations. And so Mr. Suso has asked the Board of Health and the Building Department, Town Council, and asked me to sit with them and begin to draft these regulations. It's at the very early stage at this point, and a lot of this is legal because it ends up being a contract between the property owner and the town, as well as the regulations that, or as well as the steps that we already are involved in with the demonstration project. So that has started, and Mr. Suso has sort of put a deadline or goal of having this ready by the end of June for the selectmen to review, with the intent that they would vote the regulations by the end of July. That's where that stands at this point.
Mm-hmm. Any comments or questions or additional information?
And the issue was they want this in place before they determine the betterments. To a certain extent, they want to maximize the number of volunteers that may want to volunteer that haven't.
Absolutely.
But there'll be a short window for the remaining people, because we can't establish the betterments without knowing how many exemptions there may be.
Right.
And that's in the detail.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is one reason they're pushing this so hard right now to
right.
get it in place.
Right. So I expect that this sort of working group headed up by Mr. Suso will present something to the selectmen by the end of June, and then there's basically a month period where it will be in public comment, and then it will be voted by the selectmen.
Okay, any other comments or questions on that one? Update on Give the Harbor a Helping Hand. There's been some toing and froing on this one. Sia, could you, or Virginia, or
yeah. All right. In your minutes of the last meeting, you may remember that the committee supported $50,000 plus $5,000 in staff time to be our part of a grant in partnership with the Coalition for Buzzards Bay. And they were going to submit the grant. They were submitting to a state funding, it's through DEP, called 319, is that right? All right. So our committee supported it, and the next step was to have it be on the selectmen's agenda. It somehow did not get on the agenda immediately, and then the selectmen have not met for 3 weeks due to the election and then Memorial Day, and they're not meeting until next Monday. And as a result, the deadline for having this letter in the packet for the 319 grant, the deadline passed. So Buzzards Bay Coalition couldn't proceed. And we might have a separate conversation, Mr. Chairman, at some point about the process of applying for grants, because the machinery is so sticky, you can't move quickly. The Buzzards Bay Coalition then suggested, and in the meantime we had all learned about, a new grant opportunity called the Southern New England Coastal Watershed Restoration Program Nutrient Management Grants. And these are federal money, whereas the 319 was through the state, although it might originally been federal as well.
It's all federal.
Right, it's
This
all-
is a
Yeah.
state,
It's all
but
federal.
It's all federal. All right, so the Buzzards Bay Coalition has now suggested that we go for this grant opportunity, which has a deadline fairly soon as well. But at least we're on the agenda for Monday night with the selectmen. But in the meantime, the coalition has changed its priorities, I guess you would say, because they're also applying for something else under the same program. So they now want the town of Falmouth to make the application. And just to remind everybody, this is for innovative alternative septic systems in the West Falmouth area, or eco-toilets. It's targeted towards a maximum of 20 properties that are on the water and most likely to be contributing nitrogen to the immediate harbor. It includes an incentive of $10,000 to install IA systems, which are expected to cost somewhere in the $25,000 range. So the homeowner is still laying out a significant amount of money, $15,000, and it has to be monitored. So I would honestly call this a work in progress. We will present as best we can to the selectmen, as long as the committee still thinks that we should be trying to install IA systems in West Falmouth. And we will need to sort out some details exactly as to the signees. As I said, at the moment the coalition feels that the town of Falmouth should submit it because they want to submit something else and they don't want to be competing with themselves.
I think it's important for the public to understand that the money is grant money, the 10,000 or whatever it ends up being.
Right.
It is not Article 17 money or any other borrowed funds. You know, it's the state the state providing incentives with state money, and the rest of it, and it takes a lot of effort to manage grants.
Right. It does. This grant requires at least a 25% match, but the match can be in kind. And the work of this committee, the work of staff, SIA's work, all of that would count as part of the in-kind match. So we need to sort of monetize that and then present it and see whether the selectmen wish to proceed. I think the point that I want to underline is these are pre-applications. These are 3-page documents that say we're interested in this program and this is what we have planned and here's our budget. So it's not actually the grant application, and yet we're having to go through all the same rules and regulations of permission from the selectmen and the finance committee before we even submit. And that's due to Article 4, which is in every warrant, every town meeting says the selectmen shall approve federal and state grants. But I think there's a difference between a grant application and a pre-application, and so we're just having to spend weeks, months in order to pre-plan in order to be eligible, and we're missing out.
Yeah, but there clearly should be a difference between a pre-proposal and a proposal.
Right.
Yes.
That you should be able to submit a pre-proposal, and if it comes back and they say you're successful, then you go to the selectmen and say, do we want to apply for this grant?
Right,
With the details.
and the finance
But you
committee.
still have to speed it up.
And they still have to
Because
speed
even
it
if
up.
you do it that way, which makes sense, then if you don't get invited, fine. Nothing much lost. But if you do get invited, you still have a very short window in which to do all the big work
Right.
and get it approved by the selectmen.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
In this
So-
case, the 3-page pre-proposal is due on the 9th, but the full proposal, which is a maximum of 10 pages, but is really the full explanation, is due on the 21st of June. So,
That's my point.
Yeah.
And that-
From the
it's not
9th
to the
10
21st.
pages, but the
Yes.
approval by the selectmen.
Yeah.
so you really, as soon as you see a grant application that you think you might want to apply for, at this point, you have to go in front of the selectmen.
Right.
You can't, it doesn't give you a whole lot of time to,
Well, maybe we should make a resolution to tell the selectmen to change their
Yeah.
business methods.
We don't make resolutions telling us like anything.
Maybe they're listening.
But
We work for them. Remember, we're the advisory committee.
Well, advising them.
Well, I think they've gotten the message, and you know, this committee in the past has not been as diligent in chasing down outside funding as we are going to be, and so it's becoming more of a problem for us than it used to be. But their process and our process definitely have to be aligned better than they are now, because we miss these opportunities. And
Right.
the difference between the money that we apply for and perhaps some other departments is ours is basically to replace and supplement the money the town's already committed to these alternatives. We have become sort of the go-to place for alternatives now. I mean, at the state level, they recognize that if you want to see something happen with alternatives, Falmouth is a place where it is happening. And so we're looking a lot better to a lot of the funders than we might have in the past. And so we'll be doing a lot more of this, and you're right, we have to make sure that the town's prepared to make it work.
Right, because the Finance Committee meets only once a month. The Selectmen has been meeting every other week, some of the time. And then there's just the whole budgetary, the whole getting on the agenda. There has to be room on the agenda for you. So we just, clearly, it's not being done smoothly. And I regret that we missed the 319 opportunity. We're doing the best we can.
Steve and Ron?
This is, the one you're talking about now, the grant opportunity, is the one that Sia circulated by email today,
Yes, that's,
which I read today. And you all may have read it a long time ago, but I think it bears remembering that it's different than the other grant opportunity. So you can't just take what you had in mind for the other application and stick it in a different envelope.
Right.
In fact, it looks to me like they're looking for something that it won't be as easy to put that. It isn't as good a fit
I
in
think,
this one as in the old one.
as in the old one. Yes.
Ron?
I'm just wondering, if we start, there are a lot of opportunities coming up, or it could be, and we expect there'll be more, that maybe there's a concern in the Finance Committee as well as the Selectmen about financial responsibility, because if we start preparing all of these, whatever they are, 2-3 page things, it takes time, that costs money. And therefore, whoever does it, I suppose paid staff would be preparing these, and therefore there could be an issue over not just going ahead with all these things and running up hours of time and putting them together and everything. So it's just a factor that may be their concern in a way, outside of the fact that sometimes you get a grant and it costs you more than you're actually getting to implement it, but that type of thing. I just don't know if there's an issue with that with our town leaders.
I'd make a comment. If we were talking about buying land, the town has a very long history, 30 years, of leveraging and money, so that we have some town money or town resources, and we go after grants with the help of the 300 committee often to make that money stretch further and make the purchase of properties possible. So this, to me, this is another way of leveraging, but we're not so skilled at it as we have been with the land purchases.
Right. We'll get there. I think in the past the concern has been things like the town gets a free boat, and the next thing you know, it needs a new motor. Or,
Yeah, right, that's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
our kind of stuff is different. We're not getting any boats or anything
Right.
physical. We're basically applying for money to supplement the efforts that we plan to undertake anyway, without being too.
Yeah, no, I don't have, I don't know what their thinking is, but I could see that,
Right.
you know, if all of a sudden, you know, these keep coming in and more time goes into them and then we don't succeed,
Mhm.
then, you know, if we have a good
Sure.
record, then maybe people will be comfortable, but
Sure.
you never know. I just don't know.
Right. Any other comments on the give the harbor a helping hand question? Okay. This next one involves Sia leaving the room.
And don't watch on TV.
That's right. All right, as we all know, Sia's been the technical consultant to this committee for, what, almost a year and a half now? And her contract is extending until what, July?
It ends in July.
July, and if we want to have her continue, we have to say so, and we have to present it to the selectmen, and they have to agree. So, can I get a motion on this one?
Well, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I don't know what she'll be doing exactly. I know what she's done, but do we have a work plan for her?
Same thing, same contract, continue, no change. At least that's the premise here.
What I was going to start to say was that we have the second year of aquaculture,
Yeah.
and that needs to follow through. We have the eco-toilet and demonstration project, which still doesn't have the 15 of the phase 1, but has things in progress. And I would expect with the sewer service area that there would be a rise in interest. And so we need someone available to educate, site visit, help with vendors. So I see a clear role for her on things that we're already engaged in. I'm thinking about a 6-month extension to the contract that would take us to the end of this year. We'd then have 2 solid years of the aquaculture, and we'd have 2 solid years of where we are on eco-toilets. I know that Wynn has always wanted her to do a report that wraps together all of the experience today. If we get one of these grants, and that's now a big if, that would be another, she would be helping on that as well.
Steve?
I think she's been doing a great job, and we need to have all those things done. But I think as a committee, somebody needs to say something about how it fits in with the Article 17 budget. Because that was
Point.
decided
It's what-
before.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have allocated her money from different pieces of Article 17. Some of it has been eco toilet, some of it has been shellfish.
Some of it has been oyster pond.
Oyster pond, right, yeah.
It was done sort of evenly, I think, to all the sub-articles, right? Or not?
Yes.
I mean, just, it shouldn't be under the table. It should be out there in writing for us all to see
Yeah.
in relation to Article 17.
Okay. There was the evenly part. I do remember a discussion about that, which probably was nearly a year ago. Ultimately, the way it was managed on the accounting and billing is that it's been charged to the municipal eco-toilet. That was one of the Article 17 pieces that never got any traction.
Right.
So 50% has been coming out of the eco-toilets, and 50% has been coming out of what we...
Monitoring.
No.
Well, maybe not 50%, but shellfish.
No, composting toilets at municipal locations.
Well, that's, yeah.
That's when Amy gets the invoices, it gets allocated to those 2 things.
Well, Steve's point is a good one. I think
Yes.
if the selectmen agree to extend her for the next 6 months, it'll be our job to, once again, look at these different pots and see which ones it's coming out of based on where she's doing her work.
At the least, but responsibly, we should look at the budget first before we say that.
Fair
And
enough.
plus,
Well,
I'd like to see
until
that-
they've agreed to rehire her, it's probably,
But once they do, it's too late.
Yeah.
well,
I mean, not that I don't want to hire her, but I mean, then it's
You
sort
know,
of a
we'll
little
have
bit
to
like
put
the
scope
better.
of work together and things like that.
Yeah,
fair enough.
yeah, that,
I mean,
Okay.
it's going to have to move
Yeah.
quickly, but hopefully the scope can be fairly quick.
Okay. Well, sometime before the selectmen get to act on it.
Well, her contract ends in July, and I believe it's the end of July.
Yeah.
So I think some good points have been made, and we need to bring that material to the committee.
Right, we have a meeting on the 19th of June.
They only have one at the 5th? or
The
whatever it
the
is.
5th was, we decided not to
Oh.
do,
Okay. No,
I think
I was
what-
waiting for the
There's a
5th.
two-day conference.
there's a 2-day conference, and Wynn isn't here.
Wynn
and-
is- yeah.
And,
Oh, right,
There was
the
a-
conference,
Cape Cod
the
Community
ocean, is it?
Webno, I mean,
well, it was
coastal.
Coastal, right.
Coastal
Yeah.
Conference?
Right,
Yeah.
okay. I thought we had a meeting, so I didn't sign up for it.
Ah.
I forgot.
well,
Yeah.
sign up.
I can sign up now, okay.
I have some.
Eric?
I didn't quite get where salary of CS come from. 50% from the municipal eco-toilet program and the rest.
And the other 50%, from an accounting point of view, has been coming out of the line item composting toilets at municipal locations.
That's 50%. What about the other 50%?
No, 50% from eco toilets, that's one line item, and then a second line item was the composting toilets, as I remember.
It's eco toilets and INA systems, which was 500,000.
Oh, okay.
The other one, I think, was 100,000 for the municipal ecosystems.
All right.
I mean, as far as we're concerned, it all comes out of Article 17.
Well, that's correct.
This committee allocates
Right.
what part it comes out of, unless the other
Yeah,
selectmen.
that's worth repeating, because Article 17 was, by its own words and phrases, was fungible. It was
Right.
quite clearly not cast in stone or cast in particular baskets. It was presented to the town meeting as a suggestion at that time of where these monies would likely
Right.
be allocated, and then there's been some change in that ever since.
And Virginia prepared a very nice breakdown of it at
That's
one
right.
point, and maybe that should happen again.
Okay.
And we
Yeah,
should
maybe,
all see it.
maybe you could bring that to the next meeting.
Okay.
That would be useful. I think we're all trying to remember what was in it.
Right.
I mean,
Okay.
Yeah, I think, the way the article is written, it had, what, $2.77 million for various activities, and then there was, as you say, some indicative list for planning purposes, but
Right.
obviously some things have changed a lot.
Right. Okay, well, we'll have that at the next meeting, if that's, since we didn't bring it this
So
one.
do we not need to take any other action tonight as far
I
as?
think, well, I guess we need to take a vote on...
To recommend
To recommend to the selectmen that we don't, another 6 months at the same terms and conditions.
I think I'd like to see the scope of work and the budget thing first.
Okay, well, we need to take a vote tonight if we want to get it on their agenda. We can certainly,
I'll vote to get it on the agenda.
on the selectmen's agenda.
Oh, no, on our agenda.
It's on ours.
I know, but
But
We're going to
once it's on their agenda, then it goes in their meeting, and then they vote, and then it's a done deal.
No,
No.
Oh,
we got to draw a contract. We got to determine if we can extend the contract or whether we have to go to procurement. That's well beyond our decision at this table. I mean, I've had,
you mean you're
Yes.
saying if the selectmen say, go ahead and extend the contract, we can say, no, we didn't really mean it, don't extend it.
no. We're asking the selectmen permission to have a technical consultant for another 6 months. If we can extend the contract, that's the simplest. If we can't because of other administrivia, we could possibly have to go out to a formal procurement, which would probably be an ad in the local newspaper. So nothing is simple. I've had this discussion. That's why I suggested we get a vote from the committee that yes, you want to go forward with a technical consultant. And, the selectmen will authorize going forward with a technical consultant. It's probably inappropriate necessarily to name a name, but there's no doubt that if we can extend the contract, I thought the consensus was you would prefer to extend that contract or then go for formal procurement. We have a new finance director and, she's responsible for procurement.
Obviously, I would like to do it in the simplest possible way, and obviously, if we hire anyone, I would want to hire Sia. I just don't feel that my fiduciary responsibility as a board member, if you call it that, to vote on a substantial budget item without seeing the budget. But I'm sorry, I just find that.
No, I'm not arguing that point. I'm just arguing the process.
And
what we have to go through.
I support Steve's position on this.
I mean, I don't want to hold it up if
Well-
there's something, but you see where I'm coming from, right?
Somebody make a motion. Or not.
When's the next time you're going to be able to get it on your agenda then?
June 19th.
June 19th. And I think the
Yeah.
time frame fits because the contract doesn't expire until the end of July.
Okay.
So we will come with more
And
information
come back on June 19th.
on June 19th.
All right.
And that'll still be, you'll still be able to get it on the
Yes,
selectmen.
Is it
as long as they meet in July.
Personally, 4th of July,
Well,
4th
that's,
on Friday or Saturday, right?
Yeah, they won't be meeting on the 4th.
But that's not a one-year.
All right, which gets us to our own June and July schedule. June is spoken for. We were not meeting on the 5th, and we were meeting on the 19th. Our normal meeting dates would be the 1st and 3rd Thursday, but the first Thursday in July is the 3rd, which is unlikely to be a day that anybody wants to be here doing this, which would leave us the 17th and the 31st
Of July.
of July. Does that sound like a reasonable schedule? Or is there anybody dying to meet on the 3rd of July?
I just, that's fine. I mean, I agree that if there's nothing pressing, that's the only thing. I don't know what we have coming up. I don't have a clear sense of what actually.
Maybe you need to reseed it occasionally to keep it growing. A lot of variables.
So you're doing something sort of in between what most people would think of as a reef. You know, you think of a reef, a coral reef. Naturally, it's growing on the bottom. And
Yeah.
aquaculture, which is a man-made structure that's floating or suspended or something like that. So it's,
Well, it's like a
different
reef,
kind of
right?
aquaculture.
Like it's like a reef in that it's grown on a substrate. Where aquaculture, they're not. They're growing in bags and they're all by.
But it's a movable reef.
It's a movable reef.
A mobile reef.
And so Steve's point is,
It's a absolutely.
taken.
It's sort of a. It's like a right. It's a.
Okay.
That's right, it's an oxymoron.
And do we need Division of Marine Fisheries approval because we're growing them in areas that are closed? I think those areas are closed. I know you said pilot, I just don't know if that's one of the steps we might have to check.
Good point. Do you know?
Yeah, I know a lot about it.
Well, I
I don't
understand.
know
Do we need,
what you want to know.
Do we
I mean,
need-
I can
do we
tell you,
need-
I
do we
wasn't
need
included-
DM
I
do
wasn't
we need-
included in this, so I can't tell you exactly what.
okay, do we need DMF approval to
Yes,
do?
you need DMF
the floating
approval
things.
for a number of reasons. And one of them in particular is that closing off any area to shell fishing where there are shellfish is considered not, you can't do that.
True, the premise of this would not be to close off any areas. Maybe in the future, you'd be talking about closing off areas.
Well, they've been putting them in somewhere, right? Or no? You don't put them in the water?
They are in the water, yes,
Okay, and
but they're not in shellfishing areas, right? They're not being put in areas that are currently shellfishing areas.
Timing. That's right.
they're not shellfishing areas. Well, if they're, I don't know what that means in terms of DMF's viewpoint.
Chuck is actually looking into it.
Yeah, there can be a research grant, program that can go up to 3 years in any particular places, which is what they've been doing in Wellfleet. And right now, they're trying to work with the state, I think with Dan Wolf and Sarah Peak, to change that legislation so there can be these areas. And I think in Wellfleet, they're moving
Right.
toward getting this done.
Right, calling
So-
them sanctuaries or something.
Right, a sanctuary, like the one in Pompanesett. Anyway,
Or not.
Yes.
But anyway, the other thing, there are other things are that, I mean, it's good that Concom's interested because they're not really, oyster reefs are not natural in Falmouth. I don't know where they exist unless except in culverts at this point.
Right,
But,
all right.
But the other thing is that in talking with Matt Weeks about this, I guess you talked with him and maybe you didn't bring it up, but there's a concern of a conflict between, or a concern between oyster reefs and aquaculture. And that the reefs may begin to harbor pathogens that doesn't matter so much to the reef, but could basically affect, I mean, it wouldn't matter to the reef, but could spread to the aquaculture operations. So that's another factor to look into, just that he expressed to
You
me.
mean the commercial guys?
Yeah, the growers.
Because ours would be in Little Pond where these reefs wouldn't be, but the growers might have an issue. Yeah.
No, Matt and I did talk about, we talked about the fact that, for example, in Salt Pond, that the oysters that were in Salt Pond tested positive for dermo 70%. So, you know, we talked about that, but we also talked about the fact that that's why we were doing a pilot, that we were going to look and see, and then in that process of looking at where you could even grow these, at that point you start knowing what sites you're thinking about and whether it would conflict or not. And then what the actual percentage of diseases are. I mean, you really would want to know
Right.
what would happen.
I think it depends too on the way, what we see today is one thing, but if there's aquaculture development for whatever reasons, if it's water quality management, if it's job creation, local food production, economic development, it moves forward, because in the past, aquaculture was not even really done in the estuaries, like the South Coast. So this may be a changing dynamic, and if we start moving in this direction, there could be ultimately an issue with that because of these factors. So it's can't just look, you know, in terms of a narrow time frame on this, because we don't know what's really coming. And I have not been a part of these meetings, although it's my background, but I've not been a part. And so I really haven't had a chance to sit down and go through a full analysis.
Right.
So.
Well, you're quite right. This emanated from the meeting that the committee and you spearheaded at the Concom, reporting on our Little Pond project, when the Concom itself initiated the idea of oyster reefs, and we all said, if they're interested, we're interested.
Right. Well, I was at that meeting as well.
Right. Well, you were leading the conversation at that meeting. But this more recent meeting was kind of forced in terms of timing, because we thought we were going to apply for an oyster reef grant, which turned out to be, the time frame turned out not to work. So, but we needed to know right away if the Concom was going to croak it.
I was here.
Well, then we would have had a quorum.
Well, I know, but it depends on who shows up, who should be at the meeting, I guess.
Fair
It's
enough.
up to you, your decision.
Fair enough.
Chair. It's better for you to be there. If that's better, that's good.
The other half of this is we wanted to go visit Wellfleet and Mashpee. And you were going to look at a low tide at some point so that we could go to Wellfleet at a low tide.
I haven't done that yet.
Okay. But
But it was July, were you thinking July,
Last 2 weeks in July was
so we're low tide last 2 weeks of July, I could probably look it up. That's when we were thinking about it.
And will you take some pictures of the trays? I mean, I have that other slide presentation I found from Florida, which I can send to folks. It visualizes the more global thing.
Right.
I mean, the bigger one, not the slide presentation, but the concept and how it can improve eelgrass and things like that. That was quite dramatic.
you did send a slide thing around that was pretty good.
I did send it. I sent it to everybody.
Yeah, you sent it to everybody a while ago. It was actually quite,
Yeah, in Florida.
It showed those cement ones, and then it showed the bag ones.
Yeah. And they were looking at both sedimentation effects and water quality effects.
I didn't get that.
Well, can you send it around again?
yeah.
And CC, the third estate,
Fourth estate.
fourth estate. Who's the third estate?
I think it was the royalty, the nobles, the commoners, and then the newspapers, I guess. Something like that.
Didn't you send it to the whole committee when you sent that out? I thought you did.
I thought you did.
Of late, sometimes I only submit it to you three, because, you know, you didn't want,
Quorum issues.
no, not quorum, well, quorum issues and overloading people with too much emails, which
Well,
I can do.
that's you can do.
Especially when it's the same email.
All right. Well,
Right.
let's make sure it gets around to everybody.
PowerPoint.
I have a report too.
Sure. Okay. Other reports of members and staff.
This is from the U.S. Geological Survey, which gave a presentation today. I'm giving that to you to share because I need this one, but then I'm going to give it to you, Steve, and pass these around. APCC was sort of the lead But this is a large coalition of agencies that are concerned with sea level rise, and they have gotten funding for USGS to do modeling as to what would happen with their sea level rises. We talked a lot about 1 meter rise. We also talked about 2 feet, 4 feet, and 6 feet. And if you look on the backside, the project team members include the Cape Cod Commission, Mass Bays Program, Barnstable County Coastal Resources Committee. The money comes through the Massachusetts Environmental Trust and Nature Conservancy and the APCC. They're 1 year into this study and they have another year to go. They've been looking at the Upper Cape lens, which is called the Sagamore lens, and at the Mid Cape, which is the Monomoy lens. They're focusing on those more than the Outer Cape, or maybe that comes later. But anyway, the conversation today was largely Upper Cape and Mid Cape. They have used a new technology called LIDAR that gives you the exact level of the topography. And they have the information already on hand in their model as to where bedrock is. And so you have the existing conditions of how far the saltwater interface, where the saltwater interface is located all the way around the Cape and each of the embayments. And then what would happen if sea level rises. And so we had a series of maps and most of it was focused on not if, but when sea level rise is 1 meter, which is roughly 3 feet. And just very briefly, the effects will be that the fresh water, which is floating on top of salt water, the freshwater lenses will rise also. You will notice it more along the coast than you will inland, but there is some effect inland as well. There will be greater discharge through existing streams. The tidal prism will go farther up the estuaries, which there's in the MEP you have a measuring station that is at the head of these estuaries where it turns fresh. Well, that's going to be salt, and the tide will go farther up these estuaries. And of particular concern to APCC, as sort of sounding this caution, with the rise of the water table, it means that septic systems that were installed with 5 feet separation for their leaching field, but that's the Title V requirement, that becomes less. And if you have a cesspool, there are even more problems. And so you have a greater potential for nitrogen to flow directly into to the aquifer. So they are basically trying to educate the Cape residents and all of the governments about the consequences of sea level rise. Mm-hmm. It was put out as a public education sort of program, and they expect to have another one when they get the Mid-Cape Monomoy modeling done. Mm-hmm. So
it would seem to me the take-home from this is in areas where you barely have 5 feet to groundwater. Now you're going to be in trouble.
Yes, that's correct.
And so it's those areas, and you know, as a member of the Board of Health, we see quite a few of those where mm-hmm. They just barely, or we have to mound things even now. Yeah. So if you take 3 feet off of that, mm-hmm. That's going to be a big problem.
Yep.
I wonder how far above sea level is the highest pond on Cape Cod?
The top of the water table in the Sagamore lens is 70 feet above mean sea level. And there are a few ponds up, they're all at MMR. There are some ponds, I don't think there's one right at the 70, but there's one pretty close to it.
So there really is a substantial gradient.
Yes.
Huge.
Huge, yeah.
Yeah.
The gradient for the Monomoy lens is much less, and that's partly because there's less land mass. Freshwater floats on saltwater, and you have to have a certain amount of land mass to make that dynamic happen.
Okay, any comments or questions? Any other report of members and staff?
I just have a question. Did you do the June and July meeting schedule?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, just checking.
Do you want me to say anything about this oyster course I went to?
Sure.
I'll try to make this as brief as possible. The Massachusetts Extension Service, or maybe it's called the
Barnstable-
Extension Service.
Barnstable
County.
County.
Property extension.
Ran a multi-week course on oystering, and I just went to one session of it, which was entitled The Business of Oystering, because it's been mentioned from time to time that maybe this could be changed from a Falmouth Town operation to a licensed business by some real oyster people. And unfortunately, this particular session was mostly on what you need to know to run any small business, you know, a restaurant, a gas station, whatever, like bookkeeping and so on. But there were a few tidbits, and some of them might be new to the oyster experts here, and maybe a lot won't. The first was that there was a substantial number of students from all over the Cape. I would say 30 people, mostly male, mostly 20-somethings, who want to go into this business. And that's relevant to us, might be. The second is that the business is extremely risky. Diseases, predation, storms, market fluctuations, legislative risk to the people in Mashpee, right?
Yeah, we know about those.
Shellfish consumption liability, personal injury liability, and financial capital cash flow liability. In other words, you're a dumb businessman and you start going, and it's going well, and then you think, oh my gosh, I need $5,000 more and I don't have it. Their second thing was, there is crop insurance from the USDA for clams and other forms of shellfish, but not for oysters. And business people learn that if insurance companies will insure something or won't insure something, that tells you something. And so, remember early in the shellfish deliberations here, we were talking about clams versus oysters, and oysters are more effective and so on. But I guess you have to give clams some points for being reliable. And if you want to do something year after year, reliability matters. I don't know if it matters enough. Another little tidbit was, you guys may know, they said that seed shellfish are the smallest part of the cost. Therefore, don't retain any shellfish that won't reach a marketable size in a reasonable length of time for a decent economic return. If you have sick animals, it's too bad. You've got to be a brutal farmer.
So don't overwinter them? Is that it?
Don't buy rights.
Don't.
When they get disease, don't try to save them.
Okay.
Right.
That's what they're saying. So if you test positive for a disease, don't try to nurse them back to health. Triage.
Yeah, you don't say, oh, poor little calf. That's the end of the calf.
Broken leg, gone.
Gone, yeah. And there's something called the East Coast Shellfish Growers Association, ECSGA.org, that has a wealth of instructional material, and they presented some of the sessions. Their main emphasis is on best management practices, BMPs, things like total quality management and continuous quality. In other words, you measure everything and see what's happening and keep trying to optimize. And diversification of species, isolation of disease, communication with other shellfishermen. And they're saying that expensive third-party certification, I'm not sure exactly what that is on the horizon.
Say that last one again.
Third
What's on the
party?
horizon? Third party?
Third-party certification. It's somehow sponsored by something called the Marine Stewardship Council.
From the
I
state.
believe it has, well, I don't know what it is, but
Okay. Third party.
in other words, it's
It's going to cost money.
It's going to cost,
Like the
it's,
NSF.
Oh, I see. Okay. Right.
A stamp of approval by
Approval.
some entity that charges you.
Charges
Yes.
you for that
charges for
approval.
but presumably decreases the likelihood that consumers will get sick, which can ruin your whole day for everyone in the business.
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
okay.
And so that was,
Okay.
and it's incredibly complicated.
Yes.
I have a lot of respect for the people that do it now. I mean, I think had I had to take the whole course, I would have flunked.
You'd rather be sailing.
Right.
Any other report of staff or?
I'm passing around
okay.
the PRB report from
Okay.
C.D.M. Smith. I have a real thick one for the office file and for the library. If you don't want it, give it back to me. Of all the things we've done, this is one of the things that few people have done in depth as we did. You know, studied it, costed it out. As Virginia said, we put some facts, out for people to review.
Right.
And there's a CD in the back that has all the graphs and things like that. The next thing, we're moving forth at lightning speed to get the SRF application submitted. This summer, we've also initiated the Site 7 groundwater permitting. We gathered together the reports we did, and the state has a two-step process. Instead of just applying for a groundwater permit, you have to submit a hydrogeological report, which we already did. So all we're doing is mashing that together and then sending it up as step one. Step two will be when applying for an actual Site 7 permit. That will have to go through public review. There'll be a draft permit, and there'll be opportunity for comment by all at that point in time. But
What's step one, Jerry?
we had put together a lot of hydrologic reports on the groundwater flow from Site 7. Will it impact Herring Brook? Will it impact West Falmouth Harbor?
And those just have been sent to the state.
We're putting them together and sending them. They had approved all the work plans from what I remember, but it's just the process. Now it goes to the permitting people and they go back. Even something as mundane as the infiltration rates that we determined almost 2 years ago for Site 7. They go back and relook at it. Then they say, yes, we can now submit the groundwater permit application. And, it's a formal permit application. Cape Cod Commission has a review on that. Hopefully, that will be well underway by the time we submit the SRF application. One of the things we haven't started working on, and I think it'll come late August, is part of the Cape Cod Commission's requirements was that we develop an adaptive management process.
Yeah,
It's true.
I think let's get through the first part of the summer. I think we have some ideas on that. We know Cape Cod Commission has some ideas. And it's a report with teeth, because, as we develop that, that's probably what the accounting on us is going to be. And I don't know too much more about it, but it's process driven.
It's amazing anything ever gets done. But we're going to get something done.
As you said, good projects take a long time, and bad projects take a long time, so it evens out. You said that.
I did.
Wonderful.
How insightful.
We'll see you on this.
Right. All right. Any other reports of members and staff? Okay, if not, I will rearrange ourselves so that we can watch the videos on oysters. Dick Batchelder has been our TV13 camera guy since the inception of this committee. He has stayed here till 11 o'clock on more nights than he would like to remember. He's come here in blizzards. And while he was doing all that, he had the time to put together an amazing show about our Little Pond Oyster Project. And Sia brought some drinks, and if there's any interest, I brought some popcorn.
Like the movies.
And we're going to have a half-hour show here.
But the popcorn hasn't been popped, so
Yes.
don't break your teeth.
Now, we're gonna start this.
Okay, you
Does
do
anybody
that.
want drinks?
You do that. I'm going to go pop the popcorn.
Okay.
Do we need to adjourn and get off TV, or?
Well, it should be on TV because they can watch it
Exactly.
with us.
I mean, we can take off our mics or something, or disconnect them from here.
Yeah, I said the microphones we don't need, but yes, let's take a 5-minute recess to pop the popcorn and get the juice out and watch the movie.
Very nice.
Okay, is the motion to adjourn? We'll wait till the end of the movie.
Okay, I just opened that. What is your question? I thought you sent me a letter.
Jerry, when is the actual SRF application due?
There you go.
Hopefully this has got enough sound, so let's do it.
I don't hear much sound.
Hope that's not
Yeah, why is
No
there no
sound.
sound?
Good.
No,
Was earlier.
sorry. There was earlier, that's why. Can you turn the lights off? I'm sorry.
Let's back on.
All right, so I'm at full sound. See?
There's sound.
And then,
Something not plugged in?
no, because you see, that's the sound coming from.
I'll see if he can hear Eric speaking.
Well, we'd like to.
Is it going into the FCTV feed?
Yeah.
Yes. Keep maybe sound, yeah.
Somebody was doing an oyster.
See, if you forgot the video,
A PowerPoint.
the sound was down on the
Is this
actual
a
video.
popcorn?
Yep.
No,
No, I know, I'm just starting the video again. And I thought it was either on or off, and I toggled it
I
back
think it
on.
was off.
Let's see.
When somebody was doing a PowerPoint once, there was something you could toggle between having it on your screen, having it on the main screen, having on the, or all of the above, or all the different combinations.
All right, so the sound's right here, right?
Yeah, you gotta turn that up.
Here?
No, it's,
Yeah,
You
just
moved
drag
that to the
it
right.
over, yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
That's sound.
Like that, that's what we're
Jerry,
gonna
you
get.
got it?
I'm Eric Turkington, Chairman of the Falmouth Water Management Plan. Falmouth has 15 coastal estuaries, more than any other town in Massachusetts, and every one of them is in trouble. Over the years, a great deal of development has occurred, particularly along the coastline. Septic systems of the houses, along with road runoff and fertilizer, feed nitrogen and phosphorus into the coastal ponds. This has very bad effects. Undesirable species, such as algae, thrive at the expense of others. Immigrants, essential habitat for many kinds of sea life,
That's the best we can do for volume.
the diversity of species decreases dramatically. Our estuaries are dying. The town has decided something has to be done. The conventional solution is to build sewers. Wastewater is collected in pumped treatment plants, such as the one in West Falmouth, with pollutants controlled. This is a very expensive solution, which meets state requirements of hydrogen related to sewers. The entire area from T-Ticket to Warpoint is south of Route 28 contains a sewer. The preliminary estimate of the capital cost of this is $300 million. Is there a more affordable solution? The town's Water Quality Management Committee has been considering a range of possibilities. In some situations, there is no alternative to sewer. The Little Pond area, the T-Ticket is an example. There are many, many houses there on very small lots. The cost for sewering 1,500 homes and businesses there has been estimated to be $41 million. The committee initiated a project to encourage the installation of composting toilets. In these, human waste is captured at the source, and the offending nitrogen never leaves the home. Residents who choose to participate will be paid up to $5,000 to replace their existing fixtures with the composting toilets. In the next few years, scientists from the Barnstable County Department of Health and Environment will carry out measurements to determine how effective this approach can be. As the tides enter and leave the estuaries, the polluting nitrogen tends to wash out of the coastal ponds into the open ocean where it is quickly diluted. This is effectively enhanced by widening the inlet openings to the ponds. With a wider inlet, more water will flow in and out of the pond, and the nitrogen-laden groundwater will be swept out. The inlet to Boyd's Pond is currently only 50 feet wide, bridged by a single span. The plan the town is considering calls for it to be widened to 90.
Woohoo!
That saves us $5 million.
Go Dick.
Dick, good job.
To intercept the pollutants before they enter the estuaries. A permeable reactive barrier theoretically weakens. A permeable reactive barrier, or PRB for short, is a filter through which groundwater must flow on its way to the estuaries. As it passes through the PRB, chemical reaction removes the harmful nitrogen. Proposals are under consideration to install experimental PRBs at selected locations in West Falmouth and Great Harlem. Another proposal is to purify the water after it has entered the pond. This seems an impossible task, but shellfish, particularly oysters, do this as a matter of course in their life cycle. As they grow, they feed on tiny organisms in the water. These organisms carry a lot of nitrogen and other contaminants. The oysters eat them, and the contaminants are removed, locked inside the oyster meat and shells. As the oysters continue their life cycle, some of the nitrogen is released in the form of nitrogen gas, which bubbles harmlessly into the air. At the end of the growing season, the plan calls for the oysters to be removed. When they are removed, captured nitrogen is removed with them. One oyster that is 3 inches long filters 50 gallons of water per day. In 2012, Falmouth began a test project in Little Pond. Seed oysters were placed in bags and floated on the top of the water. They thrived, and a much larger demonstration project was authorized for 2013. Town Conservation Department staff are leading the effort, assisted by a team of volunteers. These workers have over 7 years' experience in shellfish culture. The map shows the relevant area of Little Pond. It is accessed from a landing at the end of Narragansett Road. This is Falmouth Harbor. The town owns an upweller located at the school boatyard. An upweller is an essential tool for oyster culture, similar to a nursery for growing seedlings. From outside, the upweller is just a large tank. Inside are silos. These are bins with a fine mesh bottom. They will shelter the tiny oysters. The silos fit inside the upweller. Pump brings water from the harbor, rises gently through the silos while the oysters feed on the nutrients contained in the water. The water runs through this trough and is discharged back into the harbor. The oyster seed comes from a hatchery in Venice. Here, mature oysters are selected for their appearance and growth vigor. They are induced to spawn in January by raising the temperature in their tanks. Since the natural spawning time is in the summer, this earlier spawn gives these babies a head start of several months. The tiny oysters start life as free-swimming spat. After about 3 weeks, they settle to the bottom and start their sedentary life. When they have grown to 1.5 millimeters, they are ready to be sent out as seed oysters. Here they are as they arrive in Falmouth. They go into the umbrella. The seed oysters are so tiny that even the gentle action of the umbrella can sweep them away. Filter over the outlet prevents this from happening. Oysters will, in nature, grow lying on the sand at the bottom of the bay. Unfortunately, this is not possible in little ponds. The bottom is covered by a layer of black muck. This would smother and kill the babies. A friendlier habitat must be provided. These bags serve that purpose. They will float on the top of the water away from the suffocating muck. A big project like this will need hundreds of bags. Volunteers do the work of putting them together. The area for bag assembly is close to Falmouth Harbor, far into the park and the town band shell. The bags come in flat plastic mesh. Town staff spreads a cord into the mesh at the end of the bag. This will allow them to tie together in strings.
It's just my speaker. I should have brought speakers. I was like, no.
Marks the bags when it's still to be attached. Temperature should be precise. Here, the floats are being fastened. This white split tube slides across the end to hold it closed. The bag is ready.
Only 2,999 to go.
Here are our tours. Meanwhile, the little oysters are growing in the umbrella. It has only been a couple of weeks.
Look at that.
They are much bigger. Oysters do not all grow at the same rate. The different sizes were left mixed. The larger ones would take the lion's share of the food. The little ones would starve. To prevent this from happening, the oysters are sorted by size. The small ones go to the mesh shaping sieve. The different silos on the umbrella hold different sizes of oysters.
These are seed oysters, and at this stage we're holding them in an upweller, like this, the one you see here. They're just at the size where they're ready to be put into a floating bed.
The oysters are big enough to go out. However, before this can happen, there are state regulations that must be obeyed. Shellfishing is very important to Massachusetts. Many people make their living from it. When oysters are moved from one body of water to another, possibility that they will carry the oyster disease with them. If this happens, and the disease spread, the consequences will be disastrous. The state insists that they see testing to ensure that they are healthy. That counts out 600 of the little oysters. They are sent to the testing labs. The report comes back. The oysters are healthy. At the beginning of July, it is time to start filling the bags. The oysters from the upweller are emptied into bins. A couple of scoops of oysters go in each bag. Here are these first bags in the little pond. Oysters, particularly bathing oysters, are very delicate. Much can go wrong. Project managers keep careful watching on them. After a few days, they discovered that the oysters were not thriving, and some had already died. They decided that the low salinity was the problem. Falmouth had received an enormous amount of rain in early July 2013, far above the fresh water from the rain, the flow tank from the engine began sitting on the top of the pond. The salinity of the top layer of oil was very low.
My cameo appearance.
Salinity meter was installed around the critical area. Oysters like a salinity of 12 parts per thousand or more. The measurements showed that the pond was far below this. At the edges, where the oysters were, it was as low as 5 parts per thousand. Also, the water temperature was high. Conditions were better in the middle of the pond, so the bags were full there. On July 11th, the salinity was retested. It was returning to normal. The newly planted bag of oysters is doing well. The older ones have suffered.
Yeah, the others should probably be dead too. They were put all at the same time. We don't want them to be dead, but they're all
The project gets back on track. 80 oysters in the upweller have grown and are ready to be put out. These bags are ready. Because of the salinity problem in the little pond, the project team decided not to move the oysters there directly. They will be given a week in Falmouth Harbor. The water here is the same source of water that has been flowing through the upweller. There will be less shock to the oysters, and they will have a better chance to grow up healthy. The bags go out into the water of Falmouth Harbor. many more bags are needed. Half a liter of oysters is enough for each bag. Refill bags go back to the water.
That's Bob Boyer and Hughes. Really great.
Staff towed the string out into the middle of Blue Pond and joined the string in a moment there. The field of oyster bags grows. A couple of weeks later, as the bags sit in the water, marine organisms start to grow on them. This is not healthy for the oysters. The growth should be removed. Dan turns the bags over. The sun will soon kill the growth. Don't mistake.
Bad oysters.
We'll be sued by somebody.
Stalks off there and carry a big stick.
The Humane Society.
Just saving their life to get them in the water.
It's hard. The oysters have grown enormously since they went into the pond.
Yeah.
Crowded again. They must be pretty bad.
I remember this day.
No, actually, he was our employee.
New bags have a larger mesh, 9 millimeters instead of 4 millimeters. This will allow the water to circulate more freely. There will be more for the oysters to eat. Three scoops of oysters.
Those official oyster measuring cups. That is a
No, they were a liter for half liter.
Back to the pond.
This year, they're gonna be much more systematic about it.
The weather in October was warm. Day by day, the oysters grew and took up contaminants from the water. Wildlife made use of the bags.
Adding to the nitrogen problem.
Yes.
Increase the bacteria problem too.
After growing for the whole summer, many of the oysters are now over 2 inches across. This is not legal size for harvesting, but it is getting close. However, these oysters are not at present acceptable for human consumption. They are loaded with contaminants that they've taken up from the pond. However, oysters will clean themselves naturally if they spend enough time in clean water. So the next step is to move the oysters to such an area. Many of the coastal ponds in Falmouth are suitable and are open to shell fishing. The oysters from Little Pond will greatly enhance their normal yield. They will live on the sandy bottom until the season opens in the fall of 2014. By this time, they will have grown to legal size and will be fit to eat. This time, the oysters are going to shellfish areas in West Falmouth and Green Pond. As you carried the disease and could have unfortunate consequences. So, before they can be moved, they must be tested again. The sample is sent to the state lab. The oysters are healthy. The permit is issued. They can be moved. The first snowfall of the season came on November 12th, the day before the move was scheduled. Once again, the bags are brought ashore. This time, they will not be going back to the pond. However, once again, they are taken to fields. This time, to facilitate their move to their new home. See how the oysters have grown. When they arrived as seed oysters, they were only 1.5 millimeters across. Now they have grown to between 1.5 inch and 2 inches. They no longer require the protection of bags. They can live by themselves on the sandy bottom. They go to West Falmouth Harbor, where a boat takes them out to the shellfishing areas. They are spread on the sandy bottom. Here they will complete their growth in the legal size at 2.5 inches and beyond, to 3 or even 4 inches. The shellfishing season opens in the fall of 2014. They will be cleaned and ready for shellfishermen to harvest them. The second batch of oyster seed came to Falmouth in August. They went through the upwelling just like the first batch. Once they had grown big enough, they were transferred to Falmouth Harbor for the spent summer. The growing season is now over. The oysters must be stored for the winter. Oysters can survive for a long time out of water when conditions are right. If it is not convenient to leave them in the water, they can be brought through the winter by pitching them. This means putting them in a sheltered place where the temperature is consistently cool. Unanimously has made such a facility available. The bags containing the oysters are brought on shore. They have not done as well as the first batch. Perhaps they started too late in the season, or the second batch of seed was not as vigorous as the first. They are repacked. It is easier to store a few bags, each containing a lot of oysters, than a multitude of bags with 2 inches. The truck takes them to the rest of the
See, this is embarrassing. He can just carry these bags. They can like show it. That's really strong.
Next summer, they will have their turn in Oyster Pond. Thus, the project will continue next year. The demonstration project is slated to go on for 3 years. If successful, it will continue for many years after that. The bags are quite expensive. The town has had to outlay a lot of money to buy them and assemble them.
Can you see it?
You can tell by the coat, huh?
The oyster queen.
Had I known, I would have worn brown or something. That's my warmest jacket right there.
Area and shed that is owned by the town. The objective of this shellfish experiment is to determine to what extent such projects replace or supplement traditional nitrogen removal methods like sewering. The state will require 3 years of oyster growing before it approves this procedure. However, after only 1 year, the neighbors around the pond are reporting favorable effects. The water appears to be clearer. Next year, there will be twice as many oysters. The effects should be even more visible.
Yay.
By next summer, the oysters from the first batch will be legal size, and a long stay in clean water will allow them to purge themselves of contaminants. Shellfishing areas in West Falmouth Harbor and Wessex Harbor will be open. They will be available to commercial and residential shellfish permit holders of all ages. Some have been planted in commercial fishing areas. The enhanced catch will stimulate the town's economy directly. Others are going to recreational areas. Visitors will be able to experience the traditional pleasures
seat.
No. His footage was amazing.
It's good, very good.
Matched it very well.
What a lot of work.
Yes,
Yeah.
by everybody.
RED production.
Oh, okay.
Lights, please.
I was saying, it might be nice if we bought a half a dozen of these and distributed them to the high school and the grammar school.
The video, you mean?
Yeah, the disc.
Oh,
I can just burn copies of it.
But if he doesn't
It's
care.
okay.
He didn't. I'm sure he didn't. He'd be happy to have it.
Well, ask.
Well,
Motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
I can't make it.
So moved, saying all in favor?
aye.
Opposed, you got it. Thank you. And Dick should come down shortly.